Just like everyone thought going into the year, the Indianapolis Colts are not only the AFC South leaders after 8 games, but they can flex that they own the best record in the league, led by Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor. And if the season ended on this day, they would be the #1 seed in the AFC over the Patriots, Broncos, and Steelers. Also, the Chiefs, they're not up there. So this is really fascinating for the Colts to be in this position, but there's still room for improvement, right? Well, with that, we welcome in CBS Sports NFL and draft analyst Ryan Wilson. And Ryan, despite all of their success for Indy, you're always searching for ways to improve, maybe more so on the defensive side. On the defensive line, who do you think they should be eyeing when it comes to a trade?
Hey, Chris, good to see you. Yeah, wild times we were living in when the Daniel Jones-led Indianapolis Colts are 7-1 and the best team in football. But Daniel Jones does not play defense, so let's go to that side of the ball where they could use a little help. Now, they drafted Leatu Latu last season. They got JT Tuimoloau this year in the draft out of Ohio State. But they still need to fix that edge rush position. And who better to do that than Trey Hendrickson, who is currently unhappy playing in Cincinnati, where he's been happy for some time. The concern is that Trey has a hip injury right now. I don't know if that's Trey saying, I'm going to take it easy until you trade me, or if it's legit. Either way, he would be a boost to an edge rush group, that needs it. The interesting thing about this edge rush class and the front seven in particular in Indianapolis, Chris, is that they are generating a ton of pressures among the most in the league. They're just not getting the sacks as frequently as perhaps the pressure should indicate. So if they can take that next step, and someone like Trey Hendrickson can certainly provide that, that would make their path to the playoffs even a little easier than it currently appears to be.
Absolutely. So what would they have to give up? Like, what would you give up, right, if you were the Colts to try and get Mr. Hendrickson?
Yeah, so I would imagine the Colts are going to ask for a day 2 pick. I would not want to move off anything more than a 3rd-round pick if you're the Colts. You might be able to get them for a little cheaper than that. They redid Trey's deal going into this season. They didn't give him the long-term deal the Bengals did, but they gave him a little bit more money on this year. And he's going to want to get another contract, so that can be part of the negotiations when the Colts say, look, we're going to take him off your hands. You can get nothing if he leaves at the end of the season, or we'll give you a 4th-round pick that's maybe conditional based on how the rest of this season plays out. A 2nd-round pick feels out of the question. It feels incredibly rich. So best case 3rd for the Bengals, more likely probably a day 3 that's conditional.
Okay, so if they do indeed are able to acquire him, right, how do you think he would fit scheme-wise when you look at that defensive setup?
Man, you're going to put him out there. Well, look, Lou Anarumo's the defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. He was previously in Cincinnati for several years, so they're quite familiar with one another. In the last 2 seasons, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure Trey Hendrickson got 17.5 sacks in back-to-back years. So I think that transition would be as seamless as the transition could be, going from one team to the next in the middle of the year. The other thing to keep in mind is all the fingers pointed at Lou Anarumo on his way out the door in Cincinnati. Turns out it wasn't entirely his fault. That defense still stinks in Cincinnati. There's clearly room for improvement in Indianapolis, as you see on this graphic. But the offense is helping. Joe Burrow helped in Cincinnati. Didn't seem to matter there. And someone like Trey Hendrickson is going to help that defense, that front 4 in particular.
All right, let's say, though, the Bengals were like, nah, we're good on trading Mr. Hendrickson. You're not going to get him. Who is another in you believe could be a wise fit in a trade for the Colts?
Yeah, Jaelen Phillips out of Miami, who he struggled with injuries, and that's just the reality. A former 1st-round pick, and when he is healthy, he is an absolute game changer. And he would probably come at a much cheaper bargain than Trey Hendrickson, in part because of the injuries. He's also in the last year of his deal, and if the Dolphins aren't interested in keeping him, they may want to get something in return as opposed to letting him walk and wait to see what the compensatory pick looks like down the road. But in terms of if you're building an edge rusher in the lab, it looks like Jaelen Phillips getting off the bus. And again, he fits exactly what Lou Anarumo likes. He's tall, 6'4", 6'5". He's thick, 265-ish and so, and he's incredibly twitched up. Fingers crossed he stays healthy, but you only need him healthy for the next 2 months. After that, he can twist an ankle or do whatever. Fingers crossed you want him to stay healthy forever. But my point is that you don't need him to be healthy for the next 3 years. You're making a run here with Daniel Jones, which is always fun to say, and you need some help on the defensive side of the ball, and Jaelen Phillips will give you that in the near term for sure.
And you think that he would be a much lower price tag than Hendrickson? Like, how do you think that would all work out between the Colts? and the Dolphins?
Yeah, I think it would be a little lower. I think it would be probably middle day 3 type picks. We've seen some trades happen in recent days. With Kyle Duggar in particular going from the Pats to the Steelers for a day 3 pick. He's a former second-round pick who's struggled with injuries in recent years, had really good seasons in 22 and 23 for New England. And Jaelen Phillips has had the ACL. I think he had the Achilles as well. So he has battled through injuries, and that will be a consideration because you're not going to get premium price for a player who struggles to stay on the field because of health concerns, even one who's in the last year of the deal, and even one where you might understand as a GM, Chris Greer in Miami, that Chris Ballard in Indianapolis is looking for some immediate edge rush help, and there's a chance perhaps to have a little leverage in that situation. But the injury concerns are probably going to be paramount, and that's why Trey Hendrickson, when we talk about these edge rushers, is usually the first name mentioned.
Now, you brought Hendrickson up earlier as a possible trade target. How about any of his teammates, perhaps?
Yeah, let's continue the Lou Anarumo reunion tour and get Logan Wilson, the linebacker. The linebackers in Indianapolis have been average. They can certainly use room for improvement, Jermaine Pratt, who was with the Raiders, got released, is now in Indy. Again, another Cincinnati to Indy reunion. He played for Lou Anarumo as well. Logan Wilson is the team captain in Cincy. And perhaps it doesn't speak well, Chris, that you're the team captain and you get benched on that terrible defense in Cincinnati. I don't think he's the sole reason that team has struggled defensively. By all accounts, he's a great teammate. I understand that he was frustrated by the fact that he got benched. He's a really good athlete, and I think he could translate as well to Cincinnati. From Cincinnati to Indianapolis since he's not playing, and it gives the Bengals a chance to get some compensation in return. The other thing is that's going to be a late day 3 pick, 6th or 7th round pick probably. 7th round pick might be the max you would get for someone who you have since benched, but who might be of value to another team.
Yeah, what about in the secondary, though? Because as we mentioned, like the defense, bend, don't break, right? They don't average or they don't give up more than 19 points per game, but they do give up a whole lot of yards. Anybody in the secondary that you think they should be looking out for?
Yeah, and they battled a ton with injuries in the secondary, so this would be not only an insurance policy, but a chance to get a really good player out there who happens to be in the last year of his deal. Alontae Taylor, the defensive back from New Orleans. He can play corner. He's big, strong, fast. He can play safety if you need him to do that. So that versatility is also incredibly important. As I mentioned last year of his deal, so he'll be looking for a new deal. Also means typically that the team, like the Saints, if they're not going to re-sign him for whatever reason, and he is worth re-signing, but this is a team that's not very good in New Orleans, that's 1-7, and they might be looking to get a bunch of draft picks and figure things out as they look ahead to 2026. You could probably get something of a bargain for Alontae Taylor. Day 3 pick sounds about right. 4th round pick seems a little rich, but it depends on how bad you want him and what the Colts are willing to pay. They do have needs in the secondary, like I mentioned, in part because of the injuries, and they give up a ton of yards, as you talked about. They've struggled in the red zone as well. Alontae Taylor will go a long way in helping solve some of those issues.
And how do you think Lou would use him, right, to get the max amount of production out of him?
Yeah, so he can play outside because he is big, strong, and fast. He can play in the slot. He can play deep if you want. Cam Taylor-Britt comes to mind as someone who was playing at his best, was really effective. He has a similar body type to Alontae Taylor. He plays primarily outside. Like Logan Wilson, he has been benched several times in 2025. He could also be on the trade block. I think Alontae Taylor is a much better player at this point through the first 2 months of the season than Cam Taylor-Britt has shown himself to be. But I think the versatility is the most interesting thing about Taylor. Came out of Tennessee playing outside primarily, and we've seen him move all over the place. And he's been incredibly effective this season, no matter where he's lined up in New Orleans.
And you've been hammering the defensive side of the ball, Ryan. So how about somebody on the offensive side? I know they don't have as many glaring issues there. Perhaps an Ohio State wideout?
Yeah, that's right. This is more of a vanity pick just to soup up the offense a little more, which is a wild thing to say, given how well Jonathan Taylor has played, given how well Alec Pierce has now played. The interesting thing is that A.D. Mitchell, after dropping that ball inches from the end zone, has not seen a lot of playing time. And he said recently that he hopes he can get back into the good graces of Shane Steichen and get back on the field, and we'll see if that happens. Chris Olave is probably not going to drop the ball before he gets to the end zone. He's a reliable receiver. He can play inside or out. He is effective at all 3 levels, and that's just an added weapon for Daniel Jones to go along with the Alec Pierces, the Jonathan Taylors, and the Tyler Warrens, the standout rookie tight end, the Michael Pittman Jr.'s, who I didn't even mention first time around. Again, not at the top of the to-do list if you're the Colts, But again, and this graphic can only make you laugh because they're first in every major category. But it's an opportunity for the rich to get richer as they move down the stretch here and make our way towards January football.
So what would you think they would have to give up? Because I feel like Chris Olave is a guy that a lot of people are high on. How do you think that compensation package would look for the Colts?
Yeah, that's probably gonna cost you, and it might be third-round pick. If it were a second-round pick, that feels a little rich. But if you told me that a team liked him enough, it doesn't have to be the Colts necessarily. But as you mentioned, Chris, there are going to be plenty of teams sniffing around Chris Olave because there are needs all around the league for wide receivers 2 and 3. Olave can be a wide receiver 1 for sure, but if you're looking to stockpile a wide receiver room. So day 2 pick sounds about right. I would say third round is where I would feel comfortable. That might be an overpay for the Colts if you're not able to get an edge rusher. The conversation is Trey Hendrickson or Chris Olave. You got to take Trey Hendrickson. But if you're looking to continue to stack up a roster and you can somehow get both, there's nothing wrong with Hendrickson and Olave if the price is right.
Well, how about let's talk about Anthony Richardson, right? What do you think are the possibilities for him to get traded?
Well, the crazy thing is that no one saw the Daniel Jones thing coming. I thought Daniel Jones would have some success in this offense with Shane Steichen. Never did I think he would become Peyton Manning 2.0, which is sort of an exaggeration, but he's playing out of his mind. We can all agree on that. He's a legit MVP candidate. The thing with Anthony Richardson is he had the orbital injury, freak accident prior to the game a few weeks ago. He's had surgery. They say he will return this year. So his trade value, whatever it may be, and I don't even know if Chris Ballard, the GM, is answering phone calls about Anthony Richardson, it's with the understanding that Anthony Richardson ain't going to play this year. You can see the list of injuries here in this graphic. If you trade for him before the trade deadline, November 4th, it's with the understanding that we want him to be our quarterback going into next season, and we're willing to work on that. Here's something to consider, though. Depending on how you feel with this quarterback class, there could be 3 quarterbacks that end up going in the first round. Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, should he come out of Oregon. John Mateer's a guy at Oklahoma who's battling injuries. And, of course, Ty Simpson is playing some fantastic football at Alabama. If you feel more comfortable with Anthony Richardson, who certainly has had a little bit more experience in the NFL, not great experience, but he has played 2 seasons or thereabouts, maybe that's the direction you want to go if you don't love the quarterback class and you're a team that's thinking about targeting a quarterback next year, whether it's the Saints, whether it's the Jets need a quarterback, the Raiders. There are several teams that could be in the running for that. So that's probably the scenario we're talking about. At the end of the day, I imagine an AR5 stays put, but, just something to talk about before November 4th gets here.
Yeah, always fun to discuss possible trade deadlines, people moving that you didn't expect to be on the trading block. Ryan Wilson, always appreciate the insight, man. Week 9, we've got so many high-powered games. Colts against the Steelers, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers. Big one, 4:25 Eastern, part 10 of the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes rivalry between the Bills and the Chiefs, going down at 4:25 in Buffalo.